mind. We can't be together, I guess. So that cuts that one out.
So for those of you who have called in, we're still setting up. Will be a couple more minutes. We have a couple more commissioners that are going to log on, and then we'll be able to start the meeting. Thank you all for coming and waiting.
Hey, Lisa, how's my buddy Greg Durr doing? Oh, now Lisa's nuked. This could be this could be a really quick meeting.
Sorry. Who is Greg?
Isn't Greg Durr the one of the attorneys in San Carlos?
I don't know Greg. Greg Rubens?
I'm sorry, Greg Rubin. I'm sorry. They're different.
Yeah.
Right.
You're good. You're close personal friend.
San Carlos was very busy with the emergency operations center, because when the hotel opened up for the cruise ship passengers, they opened up the emergency operations center, and we've been staffing it all day. So it's been very busy there.
Wow. Well, you must be, the bigger the town, the more that's a big project.
Yeah.
We're running a little long. Anthony, I'm going to ask you: have you checked with Nancy to see if or Perry to see if they're coming online?
The last I heard was that they were both participating. But
I see them muted.
Unless their phone numbers, unless somebody knows.
There's a 415 number on.
So
yeah, don't put
there's two of them.
Yeah, Anthony, can you?
Yeah.
If you can unmute each one and find out who they are and then name them.
I can email. Yeah, I can email. Both. Go ahead.
So this is Anthony, city clerk in the town of Atherton. There's a phone caller that's a 415 area code. The last four digits are 1513. If you could test your mic so we can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, this is Phil Gleason from MIG.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Phil. Yeah, we see your name on the screen.
There's also
we see your name on the screen in MIG. Yeah.
And there's another caller, area code 650, last four digits 1332.
That's Nancy.
Oh, good. Hey, Nancy.
Oh, Nancy, there you are.
I've been muted till now. What's with the silly mute stuff?
It was a nice idea.
Everybody's muted when they first come on. We didn't know who you were because you didn't have your picture, so we didn't know it was you were supposed to be unmuted.
Well, I'm calling by phone.
Yeah, that's why the picture's not there. So we didn't know.
Oh, well, that's a good reason.
Yeah, that's why we're doing a roll call. So Perry, are you there? Is Perry on the phone?
I don't have Perry listed as in the call as of yet.
The only one I see, just to take the lead here, is M-Star. If Perry works for M-Star, he's on. If not, it's Phil, Andreas, Jacob, Jason, and B. Beard. Those are the 5 that I see other than all of us and Nancy.
Yeah. So Anthony, a quick question. The people who are on the phone do not show anywhere on the screen. Is that correct?
They do show. I can see them now, but we have to rename them if we want to see their name. So the 1513, who was that again?
Sorry, I had to take myself off mute. This is Phil Gleason. I'm logged into the computer, but I'm calling in for myself for the audio.
Okay, there you go. So Phil, we can see you on the computer, and we didn't know why we couldn't see why you also have the phone, but that explains it. I don't see Nancy's box anywhere. So when somebody's calling in, I'm not seeing any box for the people who are only calling in.
So that's because you're not the host.
Anthony, is that?
She's here.
That's because you're not the host. You're a meeting
okay,
participant.
That's all right. And that's exactly, and I'm used to being the host, and that's why I thought I should see them. Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood why. So, Anthony, I'm going to ask you to let us know how many people are on the phone periodically, all right?
Sure.
Who's M-Star Semiconductor? Who's that? Oh, hi, Terry.
It's a computer screen that we have in the pavilion in case there's any public. So you can disregard it. It will not be
Okay.
speaking today.
All right, good.
Where's everybody's shelter-in-place beard? That's what I want to know.
Hey, my hair is getting so. I chose a bad time to start growing my hair because I'm about ready to go on eBay and get a Flowbee. You know?
Okay, good luck. You look good.
All right. All right. So we have everybody. All the commissioners are here, and then Phil Gleason is on. So I'm going to go ahead and Lisa, I'll go ahead and start the meeting. Is that okay?
Anthony, are you ready for us to start the meeting?
Yep, it's recording now.
All right. Very good.
Thank you. Yes, Chair, please start the meeting.
All right, great. I'll go ahead and get the Planning Commission for March 25th off. And for those of you who have not participated in this format before, it's because nobody has. So we're going online for various obvious reasons. And what we're going to be doing is we'll be going through our agenda normally, but we'll create a little bit more space between each transition because of the lag in various lines. So I want to make sure that we're hearing from anyone who wants to speak. And right now, the way we're set up is the people on the commission, our lines are open, and then when we open up the public hearing, we'll open up individuals to speak, and then we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion and action as we normally would. So with that, I'll call Lisa. Could you call the roll?
Thank you. Chair Lane,
Here.
Commissioner Tonelli,
his
he
voice,
waved to show his presence.
his
Is he
voice.
still- can we not hear him?
Anthony, we got to get his voice working.
So he's
Yeah, I think
unmuted.
we need him to call
He's
in or something.
unmuted. The issue is on his end.
Oh,
He doesn't usually need a microphone.
He can dial into the phone if he's having a problem getting the audio from the computer. He can dial in through the phone line and just type in the meeting ID that's at the top of your agenda.
Yeah, he's got that. Well, you can raise your hand anytime you need to
Thank you,
vote, Paul. All right, next. Lisa, you
Commissioner Lamb,
here.
Commissioner Lamb,
Yes.
Commissioner Lerner,
Here,
Narniak. I'm sorry, Perry, I haven't said your last name before.
Narancic, good try. Here.
Narniak. Thank you.
All right, with that then, we'll go to item 2. Item 2 is for public comments, and that would be for anyone who's online who would like to speak to something who's not on the agenda. Sometimes people bring up items that we talk about at a later meeting. They inform us of things that are going on that we could take a follow-up on or learn from. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open up the public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. And Anthony, if anyone who's looking to be called on, we want you to go ahead and when you go up to the menu selection, there's an area where you can raise your hand, and that's what we'd like you to do.
I have no hands raised and I have no messages. And Lisa, I don't know if you've received any public comments in advance by email.
I have not received any public comments, and there is nobody in the pavilion. Is that, maybe we can confirm that that's Paul Tonelli's phone number that just arrived? Anthony, can you do that?
Hey, Paul, you got a little feedback going there.
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, all right, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I think we have Paul Tonelli's phone on there, Anthony, if you can
Right,
label that, the 6739. Okay, there are no
All right.
public comments.
So there are no public comments, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment section and bring the item 3 for the approval of minutes of the last meeting, and that was on February 26th. Any questions of staff or questions of anything on the minutes?
Not for me.
All right, so then
I move.
All right, go ahead and say your name and then do it for
Yeah, this
people
is
who are on
Randy.
the phone.
I move we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
All right.
I'll second.
Second.
That's Paul.
All right, Paul seconds. All right, all those in, Paul seconds, all those in favor say aye.
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 Can I just make a point? You guys should probably do the roll call vote.
Oh,
Yeah, I actually was doing it by people saying their name before they say it. That's how we're doing it, but Lisa, you can do it that way.
Commissioner
Why-
Lamb?
Quick clarification from me. We're going to have to do all of this by roll call vote tonight since we're
Okay, good.
teleconferencing.
That's a better way to do it. All right, Lisa, we'll take a roll call and vote for the minutes.
Chair Lamb, excuse me, Chair Lane.
That was a Freudian slip. Yes.
Right.
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner.
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Tonelli.
Aye.
Commissioner Lamb.
aye.
Commissioner
Harry.
Terry. No,
Thanks,
no
Eric.
Ramsick.
Ye-
No
yes.
Ramsick. No Ramsick.
I need to abstain because I was not present.
Thank you.
All right, so that's that. We have.
Thank you.
All right, that's 4-1 or 4 and 1 abstention. All right, the next item is we're really all here to talk about the public hearing, and that is a consideration of the recommendation of the city council on the adoption of the initial study mitigation negative declaration on the stormwater capture facility. So for those of you who are not on the commission, who are not as familiar with what we may do, what we'll do is we'll start with an overview from staff, then we'll open up for public comment. And again, I'll try to create space so that everybody who needs to make sure they're off mute and things like that has a chance to say something. And then we'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission for discussion and action as appropriate. With that, I'll turn it over to Lisa to go through the staff presentation.
Thank you. Anthony, I believe you're going to share your screen. The commissioners should have also received the presentation ahead of time. The item before you is consideration of the Cartan Field Stormwater Capture Project. Is he sharing the screen? There we go.
Yes, he is.
Okay, excellent. Next slide. Oh, this is really slow. Thank you. Lisa Costa-Sanders, Town Planner. I'll give you the brief introduction of the project, and then I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director, Robert Avadia, who will describe the project in a bit more detail with some technical terms for you. We also have Jason Frusell from Tetra Tech. He's the project engineer. And if there's any questions, he'll be available to respond to those. Barbara with MIG and Associates prepared the CEQA analysis, and she'll be giving an overview of that. And then I will discuss the conditional use permit, the development agreement, and then be available to respond to any questions. Next slide. So the request is for the Cartan Field Stormwater Capture, and it requires a conditional use permit, a development agreement, as well as a mitigated negative declaration. Next. We've prepared the project plans to a 20% concept level to determine if the project was feasible, and we have determined it is indeed feasible. Once that 20% concept plan has been prepared, we started the CEQA analysis process, and we prepared a draft initial study mitigated negative declaration. That was available from public review from January 8th through February 24th. We've received no public comments during that review period. And then a community meeting was held on January 21st. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then tonight's Planning Commission hearing is to consider the CEQA document, the initial study mitigated negative declaration, the use permit and development agreement. And these are all items that are going to be recommended to the City Council The City Council is the final decision-making body on all these entitlements, and that hearing is scheduled for April 15th. Next slide. And then this is you, Robert.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me. Anthony, can you hear me? Go.
Yeah.
The project is a stormwater capture facility at a jointly owned property between Menlo School and Menlo College. It is near the intersection of Alejandra and El Camino Real. Back in 2015, the town prepared a drainage study update, and it identified the need for stormwater detention and storage along the Atherton Channel. At the time, there were a few locations that were identified. They were studied for feasibility, and for various reasons, those project sites didn't work out. And so additionally, the town is required to comply with a municipal regional stormwater permit that was issued by the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board, which requires us to improve stormwater quality related to discharges in the San Francisco Bay. In particular, there are some requirements regarding reducing the amount of mercury and PCBs in stormwater discharges. To help us with this project, the town retained Tetra Tech to design a stormwater capture facility to help us meet those objectives of reducing downstream flooding, as well as in meeting our requirements to filter stormwater before it discharges into the bay. Anthony, next slide. So this here is an overview slide of the project boundary. The orange outline shape is the project boundary located within Carton Field. It's in the northwest corner. Particularly, that area is comprised of an existing baseball diamond. Next slide, Anthony. So the next slide that will come up will show the project components in their general locations. And so what we have is at the top of the slide is the Atherton Channel. To the right-hand side where you have the football field, to the right of that is El Camino Real for orientation purposes. And then down past the bottom, there's a baseball field that you can see the outline for, and then beyond that is Alejandra. And so that's just given for orientation. And so what we have here is an illustration of the locations of some of the facilities. The next slide will get into a little more detail. But up at the top is the Atherton Channel. You'll see a section of that is grayed out, and that is a section of the channel that is going to be removed and reconstructed. Currently, the channel is a trapezoidal shape. It'll be converted to more of a rectangular shape and transitioned back. And in that area, we're going to put in what's proposed is a drop inlet structure to collect and convey stormwater out of the channel with a rubber dam located so it can be taken out a little easier. That water would then go into the 54-inch diversion pipe, and then it would go into a pre-treatment device that would remove sediment and debris from that stormwater before having it go through over to the underground storage tank. And so the tank is listed as an up to 9 acre-feet. It will be buried under that baseball field with a depth of approximately 10 feet from the surface. That water then basically would be held there during high-level storm events for the detention capacity. During low-level events, it will take in water just predominantly for filtration. And so what we have then at the other end of the tank is a pump station that basically would take that water and head it towards a water filtration unit to filter the water before it's discharged back into the channel. Next slide, Anthony. So the next slide kind of shows what some of these components look like. Okay, there we go. So as I said, up at the Atherton channel, this is the same orientation as we were talking about before. We'd have a drop inlet in the channel to water flow into the system. Right next to that, you see a picture of rubber dam that would kind of hold that water back during low flow events. During level events, that dam actually would deflate and allow water to continue down the channel. And then going down on the left-hand side, there's the debris removal device. It's basically something that'll allow water to flow through and the debris and sediment to drop out. We would be checking and clearing that periodically. Estimate, I believe, is quarterly at this point in time. And then again, that water will go from the clearer water that has already dropped its sediment and debris would then go into the underground storage tank. And you have a picture of what that would look like on the bottom left-hand side. And what we are looking at is precast underground storage chambers so that we could basically have the units brought into the site a little more speedily and speed up construction. Essentially in the detention capacity, it would act similar to the detention systems that people have at their homes. And it's just on a much, much larger scale. And so that water then, similar to what folks have at their homes, would then be pumped back out. And rather than discharging into the right-of-way, it will discharge into the Atherton channel after going through a cartridge filtration system. And so a picture of what that cartridge filtration system is on the upper right-hand corner. There is some equipment that is required to help manage the system. And what is proposed is a prefabricated fiberglass shelter unit to house the equipment. It would be soundproof. It would have sound insulation to reduce noise, but in there would be the controls. It would have a air compressor to inflate and deflate the dam, as well as the operation stuff for the pump, to pump the water out of the underground storage tank. Next slide. Actually, before we go to the next slide, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions.
Yeah, these are
regarding
questions
any
from
of the
the,
technical aspects of the project.
all right, these will be questions from the commission, just to be clear. Anyone on the commission have any questions?
Nope, I don't.
No.
All right,
Yeah, I do, if you don't mind, just a quick one.
go ahead.
So I was on the Parks Commission when I think a similar idea came up, and the proposal was to bury it at the Los Lamitas School. Is this just a reworked version of that proposal in a different location?
That is correct. So it had started out at one point at Los Lamitas. The negotiations with the school weren't fruitful. There was a time that it was considered here at the park. The council directed staff to look at alternative locations. And this is an alternative location. And one of the actions that you have before you tonight is a development agreement with the schools that would allow for them to provide an easement for this facility to be constructed on their property.
And we can talk more a little bit later, but my recollection was that there was a very substantial state incentive monetary incentive. Is that still around for this project?
Yes, this project is intended to be fully funded by the state at this point.
Okay, and then when you look at the current page on the screen, is that Watkins where it heads out to the to that gray area across? Well, the Atherton Channel, does that head along Watkins? Is that right?
So right, this here is on the other side of El Camino Real. So Carton Field, as you know, section of Alejandra and El Camino. In the back of the field, opposite Alejandra, is the Atherton Channel. As it leaves this area, it does go into an underground box culvert and does head over towards Watkins. And along Watkins by the park, the channel is open again.
Yeah, but I can tell you on what would be the northern side of the channel, if you were to go south on El Camino, is private residences and then Isabella.
Yes,
Station.
agree.
Right.
So this is any other questions, Barry?
I'm just kind of curious, just out of curiosity, how large is that fiberglass structure that's out near left center field there, beyond the fence? That's going to be housing all the air compressor and all the equipment.
That's a question for Paul, right?
Yeah.
Jason, do you have the estimated size for that?
We still don't know the
I
final.
believe it's in that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
This is
go ahead.
Jason Fussell with Tetra Tech. I should have introduced myself. So we don't have a final number, but the equipment, but we're thinking it could be 12 feet wide and maybe 14 feet long and about 8 feet tall.
12 feet wide.
Okay.
Any other questions? I had two for this section.
So just one
This is
other
Eric.
aspect
This is-
that you see in front of the house unit is, well,
You have another question.
This is Eric Lane. There was talk about on the pump. Is there a backup power supply on the pump or not?
This is Jason Fussell with
I believe that we would have, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, this is not necessarily for control purposes, and so there's no need to have a generator for this. So on our proposed one, the mechanism as a safe is if there's power lost, the actuated valve, which is the green square, just below the gray where it's the reconstructed channel, that actuated valve would default to close, wouldn't take on water, and water would just continue down the Atherton channel as it currently does. So there would be a backup generator.
All right. So, that's the other thing is, I know it's not directly related to some of the things we're going to be talking about, but how long are we talking about estimate-wise this all taking?
Construction timeline.
Jason?
I don't have the numbers that were in the CEQA document, but I believe we were estimating about 18 to 24.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I have other questions, but I'll let you go for a while to see if they're relevant, because I had questions about inflow traffic and things like that, and questions about some of the on-site monitoring. So I don't know who I had asked those questions to.
Well, some of it, depending if it's traffic related, some of that will be covered in the CEQA station.
Okay. All right. I'll wait.
But predominantly it will be from, and the CEQA document goes into some of the specifics of the traffic analysis that was done.
Yeah, I saw
But
that.
if you have operational questions, now would be a time.
Yeah, I'll wait for that. I have the outline of the traffic flow in there doesn't quite address my question, so I'll wait until we get to that portion of it. Keep going then.
Okay. Environmental review.
Give me my slides. Next slide, please. Barbara Beard will be giving an overview now on the CEQA document that was prepared. So Barbara, you can go ahead and start.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me? Just making sure.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
Well, good evening, commissioners.
Yes.
So based on the 20% design plans, we prepared the initial study, and the environmental CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, directs how the town conducts its environmental review for this project. All the aspects of CEQA are guided by the CEQA statutes and the CEQA guidelines. And the initial study is intended to be a factual documentation of the project's environmental impacts. The initial study is based on research of a number of things, including the existing site conditions, regulatory and planning requirements, a review of the project's engineering plans, and analysis of the project is prepared and the information is collected and presented in the initial study format. The initial study has determined that with the mitigations included in the document, that all impacts can be reduced to less than significant levels. The format for determining whether an impact is considered less than significant or significant is based on CEQA thresholds of significance, which are identified as either quantitative or qualitative or performance level standards for a particular environmental impact, where if the project is in conformance or consistent with the standard, the impact can be determined less than significant. If it is not in conformance, it's then found to be potentially significant and mitigation is required. So the initial study has recommended mitigation measures for the identified impacts, and the town has accepted those mitigation measures and included them in the project, and the initial study can find that all impacts are reduced to less than significant levels. One of the big issues with this project, of course, is the construction within Atherton Channel, because it is a wetland resource and regulated by the resource agencies. And upstream of this project site, quite a ways, like 2.3 miles, there's a known population of California red-legged frog, which is a sensitive species. And the resource agencies are always very protective of the stream channels and their potential for habitat. So in order to make sure that everybody was fully aware of what the resource agencies might require of this project, the town, Tetra Tech, and MIG biologists went to the city and met with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board for early consultation. And it's a process where you're able to present your project to the resource agencies and get early input into its design, and any red flags can be raised at that particular point. So that meeting was very fruitful, and there were no red flags raised. There was discussion about tweaking the design as the design of the project moves forward from the 20% to the final design measures. The input from the agencies are included in the initial study and also in the content of the mitigation measures that were presented for the biological impacts. Next slide, please.
There you go.
Thank you. So the mitigation measures identified include the standard Bay Area Air Quality Management District dust control measures for construction dust management. It also identified emission control mitigation for equipment emissions. There is a standard measure for buried cultural or archaeological resources, should any be discovered during construction. There's a protection measure for the Perry Stable, which is a historic structure, to protect it from potential impacts from ground vibration when construction is within 25 feet of it. And then there's a number of biology-oriented mitigation measures to address the potential impacts on wetlands and the sensitive species that have a low likelihood of occurring at the project site. The standard nesting bird surveys, bats, and water quality protection measures. And then there's a design measure in there to make sure that the project design moves forward consistent with the direction of the resource agencies that would allow an escape route for any amphibians coming downstream to avoid the diversion structure. Next slide, please. So the project will be subject to the Clean Water Act and will require permits once the town moves forward after the CEQA process. And here is a list of the permits. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is the lead permitting agency for the 404 nationwide permit. There's a section 401, water quality certification. There's a California Fish and Game Code streambed alteration agreement, and then the Regional Water Quality Control Board general permit. Those are usually applied for all at one time, and the agencies tend to like to see the project at roughly the 60 to 70% design stage, so they have a level of confidence in the project design and the buy-in of all the parties with the project at that point. Next slide, please. As Lisa mentioned earlier, the initial study was circulated for public review. No comments were received from the public. And once the public comment period is over, there's a series of steps that are taken to bring the project to the commission tonight. And those steps included preparing a mitigation, monitoring, and reporting plan that includes all the adopted mitigation measures. It's a document or plan that's sort of a living document that ensures that the mitigation measures included in the initial study would be implemented over the life of the project as they are written. The mitigated negative declaration was finalized for adoption, and then the project is being brought before the Planning Commission tonight for recommendation.
Next slide.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Would you like to pause and?
Yeah, I want to pause. I would
on
like
the
to pause.
sequence or continue?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go. I have a couple questions on the sequence section. Does anybody else have any questions on the commission?
Nope.
No.
All right. Yeah.
No.
So some of my questions fly a little low operationally, so they're not really for changing the plan, but I just want to make sure they're on the sort of on the record and on the radar screen, Lisa, with you and city staff in general. So in the in one of the pages that has to do with the construction traffic and things like that, a couple things. I have a concern about traffic coming or leaving with big trucks on Fair Oaks or Watkins. And those would be normal places to go. So we'll have flag people on El Camino, but if they go down Watkins and then they try to get onto Middlefield to get to get to Marsh Road, or down Fair Oaks, weaving around all those that street to get to Middlefield, to get to Marsh. I'm just worried about that traffic flow. I mean, so although we specify access to the site, we don't specify the route in and out of town. So I have this vision of a lineup of trucks that were big, carrying dirt down Watkins, sitting on the corner to turn left onto Middlefield and backing up everybody behind them. So for what it's worth, it's something I think operationally needs to be looked at, even if you don't put it in the plan. So
Yeah, that is, since the, is there anything else? I'm sorry.
I can't.
Do you have anything?
That is something. Well, I was just going to respond that the town can definitely do that in the contractual documents with the contractor. We can specify the truck haul route to ensure that they're not utilizing other streets and they're taking the most direct. Sorry.
They'll use Woodside Road or something.
Yeah.
It would be like out El Camino to 84, out El Camino 84 type of route. That would be the best.
Eric, you're right. There will be this is Randy. There will be a definite that's exactly what will happen. There'll be a route on that in terms of how the town operationally handles it. This is just because this is what we do for a living. But yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm just worried that the shortest route. I've watched it on the regular construction that's going on at homes.
Yeah.
And they come out on Watkins and they sit there and traffic backs up behind them. This is a big project that's going to have even bigger trucks with a lot of dirt. So it's just something to think about. The other thing has to do with the some of the stipulations on the at the construction site itself on monitoring. The one item I can't see the page number. Item page 3 of the report talking about biomedication under Bio 1C. It talks about the agency approved biologists will be on site during the construction activities. And my note to myself was, wow, really? I mean, so there's gonna be a biologist on site every day?
Yeah.
This is Barbara. Am I still unmuted?
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it says an agency-approved biologist will be on site during all construction activities that may result in the take of any special status species. So that is written primarily for when work occurs within the stream channel itself, rather than the excavation within the baseball field where there's no habitat and there's no potential for the species to occur.
Okay, great. So that's more believable to me. I just had the vision of this biologist sitting there for 24 hours a day for doing nothing. All right.
Yes, we would agree with that. We wouldn't think that would be necessary.
All right, good. All right. It wasn't clear to me that it was stated that way, so I appreciate the clarification. All right, those are the 2 questions I had on that. I had a couple others, but you answered them in your presentation. All right, who's up next?
Did any other commissioners have a question on CEQA?
I don't.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, then I'll proceed. Thank you. So the next item is the conditional use permit. The site is located within the Public Facilities and Schools Zoning District, our PFS zoning district. And as such, we consider this to be a public use, and it requires a conditional use permit to allow construction, operation, and maintenance of the capital facility. We're recommending that the City Council be the final decision maker for all the items. And that way everything has one date and there's a lot of consistency with the approvals. So the recommendation of the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending the City Council approve the initial use permit as well as the development agreement ordinance. And the findings are included in your resolution. Next slide. A development agreement is really a contractual agreement between the schools as well as the town. And so what the development agreement includes is a dedicated easement to the town for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the stormwater capture facility. In exchange for that and the use of their land, the town agrees to formalize the existing conditional use permit that was granted to the schools for the use of Cartan Field, then that would, it runs with the land anyway, so it's really just restating what's already in effect. We would have reasonable consideration of any future conditional use permits, would not impose enrollment caps or transportation demand management condition as a part of this project. And then also we are open to assisting the schools in meeting their stormwater detention and treatment requirements for future projects. And Robert can expand on that if you have any questions.
Yeah, I definitely have questions on that one. Who else? Does anyone else have questions?
Andy, I have a question on bullet 3, but go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I will go with it. That was mine probably too.
No. Well, let me just ask what that is. So Menlo College has no enrollment caps or TDM. Are they saying they don't want us to do a land grab? Is that what they're saying?
It's part of this project. We would not impose an enrollment cap.
But why would we Why would we propose an enrollment cap?
There's been some concern in the community that there should be an enrollment cap on Menlo College.
Like there is on the
They just want
other schools.
Yeah, that would be totally yeah. Okay, never mind. All right, I'll make a comment later. But okay, I got it.
Yeah, this is my one spot. I guess that was part of the deal, but that's a pretty big piece to give away. Because
here's the thing. So here's the way I look at it. This is Randy, because
maybe
this is where I look at this and say,
I think
they're offering this land for us.
Well, hold on, Randy, let Lisa go for a minute. Also, let's ask the questions now, and then let's make the comments when we bring it back after public comment. But Lisa, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, so what we're saying is on the enrollment cap, we're not going to oppose it for this project that you're considering tonight, the stormwater capture project. We're not saying we would never impose an enrollment cap.
Got it.
The Assistant City Attorney, if you would like to expand on that or clarify, I'd appreciate any comments that you have.
So I just wanted to add that that's my understanding. What Lisa just said is correct. The issue has been that there's been some concern that a cap would be imposed on the school because of some comments or concerns in the community. And for right now, I think the idea is that the cap would not be imposed as part of this project, but that we're not giving away that we're not giving away the future right to consider such a cap.
Okay,
right. So just for the 18-month to 20-month duration of this project.
Right. So what their fear would be, because we're limiting their space for kids to use the field, thing like that, that we would say, right, well, wait a minute, where are they all going to go? And so we would impose. I got it. So that makes sense, as long as it's not for all time. And I was comfortable with that because of the traffic issues and other things. That makes sense.
I can't speak to the full details on the timing. I've not been involved in the direct negotiations with the college. I believe that was the city manager that was in contact directly with them. But my understanding is that it would not be a permanent waiving of the right to impose such a cap.
Okay. Any other questions then? Or Randy, you have a comment after that?
Nope.
Okay.
I have a question, if it's okay.
Barry, go ahead.
So the quid pro quo here for the school seems very skinny, because this proposed project would be a very heavy burden on those schools. So my question is two-part. So why would the schools do this? And secondly, have there been any pre-discussions to suggest that the schools are open to this?
So this is Robert. I can answer. I think that the schools are doing it for a couple of reasons. I think that they are trying to be good stewards for the environment and in assisting the town in meeting some of its obligations as well. You were going to ask somebody was going to ask a question about the fourth bullet, which basically what it is that since we are constructing this detention and stormwater treatment system on their property, what that term is that when and if they redevelop the Carton Field site, let's say they were to put in turf fields or something, they would be able to use our facility to detain and treat stormwater that's generated on the site. And so they would not have to build their own separate detention system. They would be able to use the one that's there.
Yeah, and this is Eric. Barry, the other thing I could be a factor too is that they've been planning to redo those fields for some time, and this and all the excavation and everything else that they would normally have to pay for, this sort of takes care of. So it probably cuts down their cost to redo the fields if they just sit through the timeline on this, because we'll have to put it back in some kind of condition, and they can specify the condition.
Okay, and so thank you. And part two of the question was, have the schools indicated preliminarily that they'd be open to this?
Preliminarily, yes.
And they've reviewed the document.
And they've reviewed the development agreement as well.
Yes.
Okay.
As well as this.
And would the proposed development agreement include an indemnity from the town for any damage resulting to the schools from this facility?
I'll leave that to the assistant city attorney.
Yes, we've included all the appropriate indemnification language to satisfy both sides.
Okay, so if there's a toxic event, who's on the hook for that?
You mean something related to the inflows into the facility or some spill that happens on the surface?
Both.
It comes down to who caused the toxic event.
Well, let's say it's just the normal some defect in the facility.
Then that would fall to the city to remedy.
That could be a very big number.
Well, we're insured, right? We have environmental insurance. The typical thing this is Randy, the typical thing that the town has is insurance to cover this. And from the standpoint of any facility, if it's not on a town-owned facility, that's going to be a standard discussion, unless the town wants to put it under Holbrook Palmer, which may or may not be feasible. I mean, there's an entire park that the town owns. We could have just put it there rather than putting it at Menlo. We could have just done that. Then we would.
I just want to step in just real briefly regarding the concern about pollutants and other things. I mean, keep in mind what we're dealing with is stormwater that is running down the channel currently. And so what we are doing is taking that water and basically filtering it. There's no chemical treatment that's being done. It's coming in through a filtration unit that's going to drop out silt and sediment and other debris. And then that water then gets pumped back into the channel underground with basically a cartridge filter system. So it's a carbon filtration unit. The water gets pumped through to further filter that water before it goes into the channel. And so the type of maintenance activities that we would be doing essentially is to use a Vector truck or a big vacuum to clear out the silt and sediment from that first filtration structure, and then also to maintain the carbon filters at the filtration unit. And so there's not any real chemical type usage that would cause any sort of concern from that aspect.
And so if there were chemicals that came in because of the runoff, that would be the responsibility of whoever caused the chemical runoff, right?
Typically,
Correct.
if somebody discharged their pool water, if there were any impacts from that, they would be responsible for it.
Okay.
But there are toxin runoffs, right, from the street.
What kind of toxins are you talking about?
Oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that oil again would be, if you're talking about it for service impacts to the field, that wouldn't happen because all that water is contained underground. And if it comes through, it would likely be caught in the filtration units and not be a spill impact that we would be worried about.
Thank you.
So I have a follow-on on that. This is Eric Lane. And that had to do with the liability about the easement. So if something happens to somebody accessing the site, so some kid goes and plays with a pump, or somebody goes and plays with a pump, and they get hurt. Are we responsible for the fact that the easement, is it the easement that causes a liability as well as the site, or it's just confusing to me how the easement changes our insurance requirements?
I'll leave that to the assistant city attorney to respond.
So when we get into liabilities for people improperly accessing facilities like that, allocating the liability gets very fact specific. So I'm not necessarily comfortable saying we'd be covered 100% or we wouldn't be responsible. It would depend on how they gained access to those facilities. But from reviewing the plans, it looks like all of the facilities that are going to be above ground are going to be adequately secured to not enable that kind of access for some child to go play with a pump.
Okay. All right. So the answer. The first part of what you said is the clear part to me, is that it depends on the situation.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions. Any other questions
No.
from the commission?
No.
All right. Next. Who's up next? Lisa.
Thank you. Next slide is just that we're recommending the Planning Commission adopt the resolution recommending City Council approval of the development agreement ordinance. Next slide. As I indicated earlier, the town conducted a community outreach meeting on January 21st. That meeting was mailed to all property owners within 500 feet of the site, and the meeting was attended by one interested person. The town also mailed notice availability of the CEQA document to owners within 500 feet of the site on January 8th, and notice of this meeting on March 12th. We have not received any comments to date on the project. That concludes staff's presentations. We're open if the commission has any additional questions.
All right. Before we go there, I just saw a couple of new numbers show up on my screen. So I just want to make clear that we're at the point in the agenda where we're talking through the stormwater capture facility project, and this is the end of the staff report. So the commissioners would then ask any questions they haven't asked already of the staff, and then we would open up for public comment, and the moderator of the meeting, Anthony, would then unmute people for questions one at a time, and then we would come back to the commission for discussion and action as appropriate. So for any of you who came in recently or during the course of our discussion, I just want to make sure you understand what the process would be for you to speak. And we'll also take into consideration the technology may be new or in the way, and we'll try to do everything we can to make sure the technology is not a factor in your ability to get your point across. So with that, are there any commissioner questions of staff beyond what we've already discussed?
This is Randy. I have none.
No, Nancy has none.
None from Perry.
And Paul's waving his arms, probably saying he's okay. All right. All right. So are there any more slides?
Just for your opportunity to take public comment.
All right, so can you take it off then so that we can go back to seeing everybody's screen? There we go. I just wanted to see if we had any more people who came on by computer. All right, then I will go ahead and open up the public comment for anyone who has something to say about this item, who might have either called in. Keep in mind, if you called in, our moderator will have to open up your line. And I don't see anybody else who came in by computer. So Anthony, I'll let you tell me if there's anybody there that has their hands up. For those of you also who are new to the machine, to the system, there's an opportunity for you to do a raised hand on the menu so that you can, then we'll know that you want to speak.
I'll just note, this is Anthony. I'll note there's a caller, area code 650, last 4 digits 6739. I don't have a name for them, but if they'd like to make a public comment, they can go forward now.
Anyone wish to speak in the public that came on?
No, that was me that came in late. I had to sign back on.
Okay. All right. Anthony, are you no hands raised?
Nothing at this point.
All right, well, I'll bring it back I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission for discussion and action as appropriate. Anyone want to start?
I'm happy to. This is Randy. Lisa, good job on this. And anyone else that was part of this is great. Finding the site to do this is terrific. I know the park was available. There's all sorts of things. And we can never figure out all the risks associated with it, but the fact that everything was mitigatable in my world and what I do for a living, the fact that this whole thing was mitigatable is great. I think it's a good step, not only for Menlo, the college and the high school, but I think it's great for the town to get this done because I know there's been concerns. I was surprised, frankly, there weren't a lot more impacts to endangered species. I know part of the channel's a lined channel with concrete, so maybe that kept that to a minimum. But I was really impressed with this, and I like the process.
All right.
Yeah, I was just surprised that there wasn't more participation from the neighbors when there was the reach out. Because when we've talked about the field in the past, they've had quite a few comments, and I'm surprised that the neighborhood response wasn't greater.
Yeah.
Yep.
I disagree.
Nancy, anything from you?
No, I'm just impressed with how thorough this was reviewed and adopted, or not adopted, but prepared in the first place, that it probably kept down all those pesky questions that would otherwise have been raised. No, I'm fine with it. I think it's good.
Barry, anything?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think the presentation was fantastic. And this is a much more preferable location compared to Holbrook Palmer, where there was quite a bit of opposition because of things sticking up out of the ground and it not being visually appealing, and the concern by residents about potential toxins, being in a play area where there are kids and so forth. So I think this is a great location, and you guys should be commended for doing a great job.
Right on.
Yeah, definitely. We got our money's worth per pound on this on this report. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, it was great bedtime reading for sure, but it was really thorough, and that's really important on these. And it covered a lot of territory that has been a concern to a lot of people in the community. I think the real test of this will be in the reality and how we handle the reality of it. Yeah, both from a traffic standpoint, from an ongoing discussion with the neighbors, because they're going to find out, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that was going to be dug up that way and that pile of dirt was going to be there. So there's going to be a lot of real elements to it that will come alive when we actually get this thing rolled out. And I think that'll be the real test, is to make what we've described as being a mitigated impact really be a mitigated impact.
Yeah.
So let's stay on the case as we go to the next step.
Can I make a suggestion, Eric? Since you
Yes.
have it right in front of you, do you want to just make the motion? Because I don't have it right in front of me. Maybe Perry or Nancy or Paul does. But if you
I
have
have it with me. I can make the motion.
All
Okay.
right, go ahead. All right, any other comments or anything? We're ready to
None.
go?
Yeah.
All right, Paul, you want to kick it off?
I move that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2020-1 that provides for the items listed below. Item number 1, recommendation that the City Council adopt the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And number 2, recommendation that the City Council adopt the conditional use permit with the conditions specified in the draft certificate of approval. And item number 3, recommendation that the City Council adopt the development agreement.
There a second?
I'll second. It's Randy.
Moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call.
Thank you. Commissioner Tonelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Lamb,
Aye.
Commissioner Lerner,
Aye.
Commissioner Narniak.
Come on, this is your third
Randy.
chance. Your
I
third
need to
chance.
correct the pronunciation.
Harry
Narantic.
is so much easier.
Aye. Aye.
Whoever you are, he said aye.
Yeah. Imposter.
Chair Lane.
Aye. All right. Then thank you all for the hard work, and thank you for staying with us on this project. And I know it's going to be a lot more hard work going forward, but you've done a really great foundation for this whole project to be based upon. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Really good.
All right. Item 5 is commissioners' reports. Anything?
No.
No.
I was wondering which one of you are going to take advantage of the naming opportunities. Did you get that in the mail? Did you see?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I figured Randy would do something in the $500,000 range.
We were talking about the main road being into the Atherton, the new building, be calling it Lane. Does that sound good?
You're cutting out, Randy. Maybe it's because the joke wasn't good enough.
No, I sound to me. I think we should call it Lane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
I definitely think Harry needs to name something after himself, so I'm forced to say his name more often.
Exactly.
That's right.
Good one, Lisa.
Hey Perry, there's a native species garden at 20,000 square feet. That's only 100K. That's right up your alley.
Easy.
All right. I just want to make sure everybody saw that in the mail. All right. Any other commissioner reports?
No.
All right. We have a staff report from our infrequently seen head of planning.
I know.
Welcome back, Lisa.
This has been quite an experience, and I really appreciate everybody, pitching in and working with us here. It's kind of our new normal, trying to work under this health order. So we're planning to have your next meeting be virtual as well. So this was a good test run. I think it went well, and I don't have anything to add. So thank you very much.
All right.
I moved.
All right. I was going to say next time I'll make sure I have a mask on or something. I don't know. All right. Well, the item number 7 is the adjournment, and I take it Randy didn't need to have his packet in front of him for that motion.
No, I moved.
All right. There's a moved, and Nancy, are you a second?
Oh, I am, sure.
Good. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Oh.